Today is Zois Chanukah. Zois Chanukah means this is Chanukah, literally. Interesting because we lit our last candle last night. We lit the last candle on our menorah. So in our heads, Chanukah is over. We did the rituals. We did the main. Obviously there's the prayers, and in the prayers we have an addition for Chanukah. We say the Hallel, Chanukah, the praise to Hashem, extra praise of Psalms. But the main mitzvah of lighting the menorah is over, and we're done with Chanukah. We're ready for the next thing. Ready for Purim, or ready for Tu B'Shvat, or whatever it is, or to go back to the weekly Torah portion, But this day is actually called Zois Chanukah, which means this is Chanukah. There's a Torah reading every day of Chanukah, and on this day, we read, basically every day of Chanukah, we read another one we speak about the heads of the tribes, dedicating the tabernacle with their sacrifices. And for the first 7 days of Chanukah, we go through the first 7 of the tribes. And then the last day of Chanukah, we knock them all off, all the rest. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well, 12 tribes, because Menashe and Ephraim, but Levi wasn't included. And then we read the conclusion of that, which is Zois Chanukah Samizbech. This is the dedication of the altar in the tabernacle. It's a special Torah reading. And it's explained in many books of our sages, especially in Chassidus. There's a lot of Chassidus about this day. That Zois Chanukah is actually the culmination of Chanukah, in the sense that it includes all of the light of the last few days that we've been building up each day, adding each day in light. It all joins this bigger light of all-inclusive light of Zois Chanukah, which is really sets the tone for the next stage, for the next season as we go on. There is so Zois Chanukah is a special day, a very special day on the calendar. And actually, it was a couple of times that the Rebbe made encouraged that menorahs should be lit on this day also. One time for sure, I don't know about a couple of times, but there was one time that heard from my uncle, who's a Chabad rabbi in Leeds, where I'm from, and he that it was one year, I think it was 1986, and Chanukah, the last day of Chanukah, Zois Chanukah fell out on, it was either December 25th or it was New Year's, and it was the quietest day downtown. There was absolutely nothing happening. All the offices were closed, and there's a big menorah in Leeds in front of the town hall. But the Rebbe said that they should go out, that specifically the public menorah should be lit on this day. So he went out to downtown, he lit the menorah, and somebody noticed and had a very warm conversation afterwards. It was somebody that just happened to be somebody there that he knew. They had a very warm conversation about Chanukah, and I heard today from Rabbi Levin, who's the Chabad rabbi in Palo Alto, that he was going around from city to city in South Bay, because there wasn't Chabad in all the different cities in the South Bay then. There was only one Chabad in Palo Alto, and he was going around to all the different cities with his public menorah, carrying it around, packing it into the car, lighting it for 30 minutes, and then going on to the next place. And it had a very big impact. Up to the fact that there's somebody that's religious, that's an Orthodox Jew today, that keeps all the mitzvahs just because of the impact of seeing the menorah lit on that day. So there's obviously something very special about the light of Zois Chanukah. So why do I say all that? Just to explain why we're going to talk about Chanukah today, even though we usually talk about the Torah portion. And last week we missed our Chanukah class, so I want to do it today, and especially today. It's the 8th day, which as I speaking before about it being the special light, is also 8 is higher than nature. The 7 days are 7 days of the week. The 8 is the higher light. The idea of this bris, the circumcision, being on the 8th day, which is very unique because of this being our bond with Hashem, which is beyond nature, but we bring down into our physical bodies, and also the holiday of Sukkot also culminates with the 8th day of Shmini Atzeres, which also has this all-encompassing greater light. So Chanukah this little day is a very special day. The Talmud asks in the tractate of Shabbos, There's no tractate about Hanukkah in the Talmud, but in the tractate of Shabbat, which is a very large one, there are a couple pages, or maybe a page that deals with the story of Hanukkah. And the Gemara asks, "My Hanukkah, what is Hanukkah? What is it? What's this holiday about?" What's the answer? Could be a couple of things, right? Because there's the miracle of the few against the many, the small, the weak against the mighty. There was the battle against the Greeks, or the battle against the Jews, which ended up in the victory against the Greeks. And there was the miracle of the light. We all know the miracle. I guess it's kind of a double miracle because they found the oil, and then with that oil, it was able to stay lit for 8 days and 8 nights. Even though it was only enough to last for 1 night. And by the way, there are many, many explanations on how the miracle actually worked. So was it that the oil just didn't go down? Was it that it kept refilling? Was it that it was burning without oil? There's a Torah scholar from a couple hundred years ago, Yosef Engel, who wrote 100 ways that it could be this miracle. So. Anyways,
I have a question.
Go on.
What was the name for this day that you mentioned earlier? Was there a name for the 8th day?
Zeis or Zot Hanukkah.
Could you? How is it spelled
in English? ZOS or ZOT.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Hanukkah. You know how to spell Hanukkah.
Thank you.
Hanukkah with a CH, not with a H. Yeah. So the Talmud says that the miracle that the Talmud response answers the question, what is Hanukkah? Hanukkah is the miracle that the light stayed lit for 8 days and 8 nights. There's no mention at the beginning, at least, of the miracle of the war against the Jews. It was a miraculous survival, a miraculous victory. So the main focus of Hanukkah, which is all coming to the greater light today, is the light, the lights that stayed lit for 8 days and 8 nights. And obviously, this has a deeper meaning on the whole story of Hanukkah, and we know that light. And generally in Kabbalah and Chassidus, and also just in general, even if we look in the Tanakh, in the book of, I think it's the book of Mishlei, written by, that was King Solomon, one of King Solomon's poems. Light is intellect. Light is the chachma, or the ideas of the mind are very much connected with light, as the verse states, "Kasil b'choshech yayrech." A fool walks in the dark, but chacham einav b'rosheh. A wise person has his eyes in his head, meaning that his mind, his head, is what takes him on his way. What leads him on the path that he wants to take is his mind. Whereas a fool walks in the dark because they don't see. There's no eyes. There's no eyes to see. It's all dark. What's the purpose of what is the purpose of light in general? Light doesn't make something new. Light doesn't create. Light just shows us what there is already. So if we're in a room, or if we're in a space that's completely dark, completely black, and we have no idea if we are, we feel a little hole. We have no idea if that hole is a window or a door, or maybe that hole is the washing machine or the oven. So the light shines and shows me this is a washing machine, this is an oven, this is a door, this is a window, etc. The light doesn't create something new. We speak all about on Hanukkah how light automatically pushes away the darkness. But light doesn't. The darkness is not an entity, and the light is not really either. It's just the ray which comes about from the candle, from the fire, which shows us what yes and what not. In other words, it shows us what we should do, where we should go, where we shouldn't go. The light shows us this is not a safe place to walk. You walk in that direction, you're going to fall off the cliff. But this is a good place to go. So light is what directs us in our way of, how we're supposed to live our lives, basically, where we're supposed to go. So on a deeper level, a wise person, their mind is more than just it's not just light that, oh, I should walk here and not walk there. It's a awareness and an understanding of what is the right thing and what is the wrong thing. What does my mind understand to be the right thing to do right now? And what does it understand to be the wrong thing, which is not going to be it's not going to be for my good, or it's not going to help me, or it's not going to be, I'm going to leave this open, actually. I'm not going to explain too much, because we're going to actually take that apart. And the question really is, it's not a question, but it is the fact that the Greeks, the whole culture of the Greeks was pursuit of wisdom. The Greeks were very intellectual people, and they actually, there are many books that they wrote on all different areas of when it comes to geometry and all sorts of other things, which actually I was going to mention soon, but Maimonides, in his book of laws, the Mishnah Torah, the 14 books where he goes through all of the laws, he has a section with is it 22 chapters, or maybe more, maybe 30 chapters, 28 chapters on the laws of Kiddush HaChodesh, which is the sanctification of the month. And he goes into a long analysis and explanation over about 15 chapters of when will the moon be seen in the sky. So in certain months, we know in order to back in times of when they didn't follow the calendar that we follow today. So each month would be a new sanctification of the month based on when they saw the moon. So the court of law, the sages that sat in Jerusalem, that were the ones that would sanctify the month, had to know exactly when the moon was able to be seen and when it wasn't going to be able to be seen, based on all sorts of astronomical calculations. Because the witnesses would come to the court of law, and they would testify, and the court of law needed to know, they needed to have enough basis and foundation to know if these witnesses are telling the truth. The Sadducees tried to mess up the whole process. They lied about when they saw the moon. So Maimonides brings a couple of times, he says, all these calculations that I'm giving you are from the books of the Greeks, the Chachmei Yavan, the wise people among the Greeks. They wrote all these books. There used to be books that were written by Jewish people. They got lost, and these are the books of the Greeks. But it doesn't matter, because something that has been proven to be true, to be the fact. It doesn't matter where the source is. It doesn't matter who the writer. It doesn't matter who the author is. If it's true, if we know that it's the fact, based on what we see, it adds up, then it's fine, it's good enough. And it can be included in the Torah. Or Torah can include it inside of its book, basically. Because the Rambam's book is not a book of wisdom, it's a book of Torah. The Greeks were very wise people, they were intellectual people, they liked the pursuit of wisdom. And Jewish people also are wise people. We like everything about the Torah is wisdom, about understanding, about there's so much wisdom in the Torah. But there was this war, this battle, which wasn't just a battle of let's see who's smarter, or let's see who should be in power. It was a battle of life and death. The Greeks came first to fight the mitzvahs, to fight the Jewish activism. And the Jews fought back, even though technically, according to Jewish law, they didn't need to fight back. They could have just run away and hid in caves and whatever it was, but they fought back until they physically beat the Greeks. And there was a war of life and death. So if we are both wise nations, both people of intellect, with pursuit of wisdom, why is it that it became such a fierce war that caused life and death? So there is a teaching, I believe it's from the Midrash, that says as follows. If somebody says there is wisdom in the nations, then of course they're right, you should believe them. If somebody says there is Torah in the nations, don't believe them. Nations don't have Torah, the nations have wisdom. What is the big difference between Torah and wisdom? Torah is wisdom. Wisdom teaches us, wisdom shows us what is the right way. Light, the same as light. We mentioned before, light being wisdom. So light shines the way. Light shines the path of where we should go, where we shouldn't go. And the same thing with wisdom. Wisdom, when we use our minds properly and objectively, then we understand what is the right thing to do and what is the wrong thing to do. Yes, of course, we all make mistakes. Somebody might be wiser than us. Somebody is wiser than us for sure. And there are areas where we rely on wiser people than us. If we get onto an airplane, we don't question, unless we're very into engineering, we're not going to start questioning the safety of the airplane. We just get on it because we trust the mechanics. We trust the engineers that made the plane. And the same way we trust a doctor that gives us a surgery. We do some surveys, but we do some looking into the doctor, but we don't go and study. We don't go to medical school because we need a surgery. We trust the doctor. So obviously there is wisdom when we rely on a wiser person than us. But generally, wisdom shows us what is the right way to go and what is the wrong way to go. Torah, on the other hand, it does that for sure. It shows us which way we should go, which way we shouldn't go. But it doesn't stop there. Torah tells us how we are, not how we're supposed to act, but Torah dictates to us our way of life. It's not enough to know that this is the right thing and know that this is the wrong thing. And even though it's the wrong thing, I'm going to do it because I'm in the mood of it. My heart wants it. Torah is wisdom, which is in order to act upon the wisdom, to follow the wisdom, to change. Let me give a little bit more context to explain what we're talking about over here. We could approach Torah also like wisdom. We could approach Torah with the exact same way we approach any other intellectual idea and say, this is incredible stuff. This is really incredible, this Torah. So much wisdom inside of it. Let's learn it. Let's enjoy it. Let's become big sages in Torah, which is a praiseworthy thing, so to speak. Just because we enjoy it, just because we like Torah. But it says in the Talmud that Torah is like a strong drug. If you put a drug, if you use it the right way, it could be life-saving. It can save our lives. If we use it the wrong way, we know what happens. It's poisonous. So Torah is a strong drug that we could use it and for life, to be alive, to be more alive than we were before, or we could use it, God forbid, to do the opposite. So it could have a very negative outcome if we have the wrong approach to Torah. And it says in Jeremiah, it says, why was the land of Israel destroyed and whatever it was, and it became like a desert that is completely, that nobody walks there. It was a strange place at that time. Why did Israel become like this? Because they left my Torah. Hashem is talking. It's the prophecy coming through Jeremiah. Because they left my Torah and they didn't listen to my word. Now, the words in the Chumash in the Bible are very specific. When the Torah tells us something, it doesn't just repeat words in order to bring out the idea more beautifully. When it says a second time a similar thing as the first thing, is to bring out a new point. So it says, why did the land become estranged from people? Because they left my Torah and they didn't listen to my word. 2 points. Now, didn't listen to my word is obviously leaving the Torah. That's neglecting Hashem's Torah. Hashem's what Hashem wants from us. says the Talmud, no, the Rabbi Yehuda in the Talmud in the Mishnah, he says no. He says, what does it mean to neglect my Torah? It means that they didn't make a blessing before they studied Torah. This is, by the way, something that I've been thinking that we should start in our weekly class. That before we start, I've seen some other rabbis that do it. Before we start, we can make a blessing. There's blessings that we're supposed to say every day when we study Torah. In the morning when we wake up, there are various blessings. Blessings thanking Hashem, giving us our soul. Thanking Hashem that we're able to get out of our beds. Thanking Hashem for waking us up. Thanking Hashem for giving us shoes and legs and all sorts of other things that we thank Hashem for. And now we thank Hashem for giving us the Torah. And then we right away go and learn Torah. We say a few verses of Torah. Because learning Torah without a blessing before is not a great thing. Obviously, where we don't intentionally do it. We don't intentionally not make a bracha. But it's something that we could try to do, is to make a bracha before we study Torah. Just like when we get an aliyah, we get called up to the Torah in the synagogue. There's a blessing, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Hamim. So that same blessing is the blessing we say before we study Torah. So what does it mean that they neglected my Torah? They didn't make a blessing before they studied Torah. And what's the big deal over here? This is a general approach that the Jewish people had at those times when the destruction of Israel happened. That they viewed the Torah as a beautiful wisdom, but not with the right approach. This is Hashem's Torah, and I make a blessing. I thank Hashem for this wisdom. The Bach was a explanation on the Shulchan Aruch, on the Code of Jewish Law in the 15th century. He says that he explains the whole purpose of the Torah, all the wisdom that Hashem gave us, is all for us to connect our souls to God. That's the whole purpose of it, to connect our souls and our bodies to Hashem. Our souls through study and our bodies through doing the mitzvahs. If it becomes a place of benefit for us, even if it's in order to know what to do, even if it's in order to be able to do what Hashem wants, but we're not studying it we're just studying it because we need to do certain things and we need to know how to do them. We're not studying it with the intent of learning Hashem's Torah. And for sure, if we use it out as a way to become more boastful, more arrogant, we are actually doing it's actually something very negative. And this is why Hashem neglected the land of Israel. Because of the lack of seeing Torah, seeing what Hashem gave us, the biggest gift, which is the point of everything, which is to connect as Jews, to connect ourselves with Hashem, seeing it just as a pursuit of wisdom. If we have that approach, then we're missing everything. We're missing the whole point. At the same time, there is wisdom. We're not saying that there's no that we're not overlooking the fact that it's wisdom. And we are even including in the Torah the intellectual ideas from the Greeks. Torah is saying that we should study intellectual ideas from the Greeks because this is what helps us understand better how to sanctify the month or whatever else it is. Because we're not saying that there's no wisdom in the nations. We're saying is that we must have Torah as the basis. It must come in Torah. And the Rebbe brings they say about Aristotle, that they thought that one time one of his students found him doing something which wasn't fitting. It wasn't it was clearly not a moral thing to do. And he said, "How could this be? Such a wise person like you, that it's So he said, "Why not? When I'm teaching, I'm Aristotle. When I'm living my life, I'm not. I'm a different person. So there's my wisdom, there's my teachings, and this is what I'm doing." Or like another person said, another wise person that says over here that when I'm teaching geometry, I don't turn into a triangle. When I'm teaching morality, I don't become moral. It doesn't change who I am. There's even a term that they are wise, they use out their wisdom for the bad. Meaning, if the focus is, if the foundation is the wisdom, the intellectual idea, then because we are close to ourselves and our desires as humans, our desires will overcome our pursuit of wisdom, and they will dictate to us how we should pursue the wisdom. So like we all know, when we're in a good argument with somebody, or when we're in a disagreement with another person, we find all sorts of explanations in our head to explain why we're right, why we are right. And we cannot understand the other person sometimes. We block it off. It's just because our minds are pursuing our hearts. Our minds are pursuing what we want. So we use our wisdom. Not only do we use the wisdom we keep the wisdom separate from the act, like we said before from Aristotle, but we actually use out the wisdom for the opposite, for the negative. In Judaism, that doesn't work. Everybody knows that a rabbi or a leader in Judaism that acts immorally is majorly looked down on. We can't handle. It's like something you can't handle. A teacher, someone that teaches Torah, has to be a good person, has to be a moral person, has to be someone that lives a life morally. Because Judaism and Torah is not just about wisdom. It's about it's about the actual act of serving Hashem and living like that in our lives. So the fact that we all understand that if somebody is just pursuing wisdom and not acting morally in Judaism, they will not be accepted among the people, not among the rabbis. It won't be accepted among us as someone that's a teacher, someone that we're going to look up to, because Torah is the wisdom of Torah is secondary to the foundation of Torah, which is how we live our lives. And why is it this way? Why is it that the foundation is? Why is it that the foundation is how we live our lives and not just the pursuit of wisdom, like it was by the Greeks? Because it's Hashem. We all know that it's Hashem's Torah. If we look at the Torah as just another idea, why should I live my life accordingly? Something nice, something good to study. Why should I actually change the way I act because of it? But why will we not accept a rabbi or a teacher or a leader that is an immoral person? Because we know that Judaism is about connecting with God, connecting with Hashem. And Hashem wants us to live our lives in a good way, to live our lives the right way. And that's why He gave us the Torah. And that's why He gave us the mitzvahs. And that's what we say in the Al Nissim, in the prayer with the prayer on Hanukkah. We talk about the miracles. In the prayers, we say that the Greeks wanted to make us forget your Torah and to take us away from fulfilling your will. The laws, the mitzvahs, which are your will. Talking about Hashem. Because they didn't want us to forget the wisdom of Torah. They wanted us to forget the fact that it's Hashem's Torah. They wanted us to forget that wanted us to leave behind this whole idea of Hashem's will, which is higher than wisdom. They couldn't handle such a thing. Something is beyond our wisdom. This is what the battle of the Maccabees was, which eventually all the Jewish people joined along in that battle. Even though they didn't have to fight for their lives, they could have run away, and they could have, like I said before, they could have just escaped, and like we've done many other times. But they felt that this is a war against Hashem. This is not just a war against wisdom. My wisdom is better. Torah is better than your wisdom. This is a war against Hashem. This is a war against what Hashem wants, and for that we have to go all out. We give our lives. Very interesting. In Jewish law, one is not obligated to give up their life. One is not obligated to give up their life for certain mitzvahs. There's only 3 times when we have to give up our lives: idol worship, murder, and adultery. Everything else, if somebody comes over to us on the street with a gun and says, either eat this piece of pork or desecrate the Shabbat, or whatever else it is, or eat on Yom Kippur, or I'm going to kill you. According to Jewish law, there's two ways to see it, but according to basic Jewish law, we must eat it. That's what Torah wants us to do right now. Torah wants us to stay alive. And that overrides this thing. And the same thing applies simply on without talking about someone coming to persecute us. If we talk about life and death on Shabbat, if somebody is sick on Shabbat and needs to get to the hospital, needs to, then we say Shabbat. As far as we're concerned, for that person, Shabbat is over. We drive, we turn on the light, we call the doctor, we do whatever we need to do, because life is what Torah wants from us. Yes, there are times when Torah wants us to give up our lives, but that's not in this case. But it says also in Jewish law that if in a time of shmat, in a time when they're trying to wipe out, trying to wipe out the observance of Judaism, then there is an approach where we have to give up our life for everything. Whatever it is, we give up our life. Like in the story of the Maccabees, the story of Hanukkah, there's a whole story about different sages that gave up their lives. They shouldn't eat non-kosher, because in public and when it's for such a purpose, it's not about the mitzvah anymore. It's about Hashem. They're trying to fight Hashem. It's not about this specific mitzvah. So whatever it is, we have to give up our lives, because we're fighting the war for something which is our essence, the essence of everything. And the miracle, we said before, what's Hanukkah? The main thing of Hanukkah is the miracle of the light. How did it come about? Through the jar of oil, which was sealed with the seal of the high priest. The oil is light. The light of how we should live our lives. But it's not enough that it should just be oil. It has to be oil with the seal of the high priest. It has to be an oil which dictates to us how we should live our lives in a way that is fitting with the high priest, fitting with service of being connected with God, basically. Another very interesting thing is that the oil that, according to Jewish law, this is something which came up many times in the temple. When everything is impure, when everything is defiled, you are allowed to use the defiled for the purpose of keeping the temple going. So let's say it's the day before Passover and everybody is defiled. Everybody is impure. So Torah says you go into the temple, bring the Passover sacrifice, because this is the only option right now. If you don't do it, no one's going to do it. Nobody's able to do it. So impurity is pushed away when we have when there is a tzibur, when everybody is in the same situation, or if all of the vessels in the temple are in the same situation, or if all the priests are in the same situation, then we push away. We go and we do it even if we're impure, even if we haven't immersed in the mikveh, or if we're waiting to become for the 7 days to pass, or whatever else it is, depending on different kinds of. If you're following the daily mitzvahs. But in the case of Hanukkah, they didn't have to find pure oil. They could have used impure, defiled oil, and it would have been fully okay, just like they did it many other times. But again, this was not a fight for a certain mitzvah. This was a fight for survival of Yiddishkeit, survival of connection with Hashem, of doing what Hashem wants. And for this, it was specifically needed oil which would shine the way, oil which shows us, which is the light of dictating how our life should be. And we mentioned this last year, but I'll just mention it again. It's a very interesting point, is that Hashem doesn't do miracles for no reason. Every miracle that we find in the Torah, we have to have a good explanation why Hashem did the miracle. Hashem doesn't go just do miracles. Miracles happen when Hashem wants them to happen very specific times, and when there's no other way. Why did the oil last for 8 days? Why didn't they could have used defiled oil like I mentioned? Because Hashem saw us going all out to give up our lives for Him, for the essence of Hashem, beyond the pursuit of wisdom, beyond everything. So Hashem did a miracle, which was a repayment, a reward for that kind of dedication. I will go out of my way to do a miracle, to do something which you don't need according to Jewish law, but this is what you really want. You really want to do it properly, to do it the best way. I'll go out of my way to do that also. So when we live our lives with the pursuit of doing what Hashem wants and go all out, even if sometimes it means not doing what we want, but ultimately knowing that it's the best thing for us because Hashem is the one that's giving us our lives, that Hashem pays back and gives us back miracles in ways that we can't imagine. That's the message from today. A little less time to study this week, so I hope it's okay that we did a Hanukkah class instead of a Parsha class. But for me, this is a good way for me to end off my last morning of Hanukkah to learn this teaching. So, thank you all for joining me in that.
This was great. I learned a ton of stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for sharing that. Any thoughts? Anything to add before we go? We've got a couple minutes.
Were people back then, 2,000 years ago, were Jews, even if they lived a life of Torah, were they allowed to study some of the Greek philosophy books?
I don't know the technical answer to that in the sense of like what was happening then and what they were. The Jews were, allowed according to what? The Greeks were the ones in charge. So the Jews were being forced in many situations, and most of the Jews, the majority of the Jewish people were becoming Hellenists, were being pulled along in that approach in general. So it wasn't about so much if we were allowed or not allowed. It was more about what is the true approach. The Maccabees were a select few; they were not the majority. It's very interesting how Hanukkah is the most celebrated holiday that everyone celebrates, even those that are so almost assimilated, celebrate Hanukkah. And Hanukkah is the battle against assimilation.
That's interesting.
Because
I think
the Jews were assimilating then. That's what was happening.
Well, I think it's so well attended by Jews now because it's so close to Christmas. So it's that influence of happy holidays, right?
It could be
happy holiday.
Yeah, I don't know if that's there's everything contributes to it, but there's last year Hanukkah was quite a few weeks before. So and there are countries where Christmas is not celebrated so much, but Hanukkah is all around this holiday that's celebrated by most Jews. And yeah, it's very interesting. Hanukkah and Passover. More Hanukkah.
Well, now we have a long dry period, huh? Before the next holiday.
This year is shorter than last year. Last year we had a leap year, but this year we have. I guess we have Tu B'Shvat in a month and a half. Then we have Purim a month later, so 2.5 months until the next big one, which is Purim. Yeah.
What did you say? What's the one after Tu B'Shvat?
No, Purim is the next one after that.
Oh, Purim. Good. I love Purim. Yeah. We all love Purim.
Yes. Yeah. For us, the longer the better. So we have some time to get back to normal activity, even between all the holiday activity, which takes over everything else. But,
right.
Yeah. Anyways, good to see you all.
Thank you.
Have a good week, and happy new Goyish year.
That's what I say too.
Sylvester, as we used to call it in Israel.
I'm sorry?
We used to say Happy Sylvester in Israel.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a whole reason for that, which I don't remember anymore.
Sylvester,
yeah.
I'm going to look that up.
It says in Psalm 87 in Tehillim, Hashem Yisper B'chsed Avim. Hashem counts in the writings of the nations. So wishing, saying Happy New Year is not the end of the world. So we all know what the real New Year is, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. See you next.
See you in 2023.
See you next Goyish year.
Exactly. Okay. All the best. Bye now.
Bye-bye.